Hello and welcome to my Auto Smelter 2.0 module. There have been some changes to how the industrial system works, so I remade my original smelter module from the ground up. First of all, we want to start setting up the ore box. Make sure you have 4 storage adapters on the box. If you aren't using my modular sorting system, this will be where you input your wooden ores. I will, however, set up with the sorting system. Go ahead and connect your tier 2 line into a combiner. After that, connect the combiner to a splitter from the drop boxes before the buffer box conveyor. This is to ensure there are no bottlenecks with feeding ore into the smelter. Next, we want to split the combiner into 2 conveyors to double the throughput of the ore. Then combine them back into one line. This is important as this last update has severely limited the amount of resources conveyors can move. We can then connect the last combiner into our ore box. Now, we can wire up the conveyors with 1 power each and set the filters. The filters need wood, metal ore, sulfur ore, and high quality metal ore. I like to set the max on the wood to 6,000, so I'll always have a row, but you only need about 1,000 in the box at any one time. You can optionally set a minimum amount here as well, which will ensure your wood box always has X amount of wood in it before turning on the smelter, but I prefer to leave that blank. Once we're done in the filter, we can copy and paste the settings to the second conveyor. Next, connect the 3 remaining storage adapters together, but leave the first one alone. You can now press Shift to attach pipes to placeable objects instead of clipping them through, which is a neat little feature. How you set up this next part is dependent on the type and amount of furnaces you have. You can see the required amount of conveyors you need based on the type and number in the graphic on screen here. I have 8 large furnaces and will therefore be using 3 conveyors to feed my smelter. I'll add 3 conveyors here and add 3 splitters as well. We also need 2 additional conveyors to set up the automation part of the smelter. We have 2 open outputs, one of which is for a potential upgrade down the line if you expand and need more conveyors, and the other is to filter junk out of your ore box if someone drops a non-smeltable item in. This is optional, but fits right into the sorting system. Put a conveyor near to your buffer box and connect it to the splitter from your ore box. Filter this conveyor for wood, all 3 ore types, and metal frags. Then, very important, set the filter type to exclude listed items. This will move every item out of the ore box aside from what you set in the filter. Connect this conveyor to your buffer box. Be sure to bypass the buffer box's conveyor and combine the 2 lines just before the box, as conveyors cannot push loot through other conveyors. Those empty combiners are just where you would connect your drop boxes. Next, combine the 3 resource conveyors and daisy chain them into your furnaces, then into one of your drop box combiners into the buffer box. If you aren't using the sorting system, just connect the furnaces to a conveyor, leading to an output box. One thing to keep in mind is the new limit of 32 boxes that conveyors can connect to. As long as your number of furnaces plus the number of drop boxes is 32 or less, you won't run into any issues. Now we can start setting up the automation part of the system. These 2 conveyors check for ore and wood. Let's set the filter on the bottom to ore and the top one to wood. Then place a memory cell and place the output into a branch. We have 3 conveyors for feeding the furnaces, 1 conveyor to check wood, and both the memory cell and branch take 1 power each for a total of 6 into the memory cell. Set the branch out on this branch to 3, run the power out into your wood check conveyor, and then the branch out to the 3 feeder conveyors. Next, we need to ensure our input conveyors, the ore check conveyor, and the output conveyors all have constant power. Change your first branch from 2 to 4 and pass through the line from the input conveyors through the ore check and output conveyors. Make sure these are all turned on, and you'll see if anything is put in this box that doesn't belong, it'll get moved into the buffer box. For automatic ignition, we'll need a timer, splitter, and electrical branch to power the igniters. I have 4 pairs of 2 furnaces, so I need 4 igniters total. Plug the timer into the branch, and the branch out into the splitter. Set this to 4. These 3 components, plus the 4 igniters, need a total of 7 power. Make sure to set your timer to 0.25 seconds, as we only need a quick pulse of the igniters to start up the furnaces, and we don't want to break the igniters. Set down your igniters between each pair of furnaces and wire them up. Next, we need to set up the automatic starting and stopping feature. Wire the filter pass of your ore check conveyor into the set on the memory cell, and the filter fail into the reset. Then take the filter pass from your wood check conveyor and plug that into the toggle on of the timer. Now we can finally turn on our ore check and input conveyors. Once the ore arrives in the ore box, the ore check conveyor will set the memory cell and let power through to the wood check and feeder conveyors. We need to set the filters on our feeder conveyors next. Add wood, the 3 ores, and metal frags. Next, we need to set the max options on each of these items except the metal frags. There's a certain number depending on the type of furnaces you're using, seen on the graphic on screen here. I'm using large furnaces, so I'll put 12 wood, 11 metal, 22 sulfur, and 6 high qual. Again, leave the metal frags empty. Make sure you copy the filter and paste it on the other two. Turn on the conveyors and they will start filling up the furnaces. Now make sure you have a single metal frag in your ore box, otherwise only the first furnace will fill up. Turn on the wood conveyor and it will activate the igniters and start the system running. If you run out of ore in the ore box, which I will simulate by turning off the input conveyors and removing the ore from the box, the system will automatically turn off the feeder conveyors and leave the furnaces to burn off the wood left in their inventories. As you can see, this specific amount of wood is enough to finish smelting all the ores without any left over. Now that all the conveyors have been turned on, you won't have to touch a thing. Just deposit ore when you're back from a farming run and the system will automatically turn on and smelt it all for you. Just a reminder, all the information for the amount of feeder conveyors and the ore maxes to set in them will be in the description. Bear with me as this is about to get a little number heavy. The reason I'm using 2 input conveyors is because each one can run 60 of a stack per tick, and my furnaces take up to 22 sulfur times 8 per tick, which is 176 sulfur per tick. Now 60 times 2 is only 120, which is obviously less than 176, but that gets halved to 88, or 11 per furnace, when metal or HQM is also being smelted. The only time I'll lose a little efficiency is when I'm smelting only sulfur, but I tend to have both types of ore whenever I go farming. You could alternatively add a third conveyor here for 1 extra power draw. Keep in mind, if you have a different amount of furnaces or a different type of furnace, your input conveyor needs will be different. As a rule of thumb, take the sulfur max number for your furnace type, multiply it by the amount of furnaces you have, and divide that by 60. Round that number to the closest whole number, and you should use that many input conveyors. There's a small quirk using the system with small furnaces. When smelting metal and high qual, then switching to sulfur, there's a slight chance the sulfur smelts before the metals get taken away from the furnace, causing the sulfur to pop out and the furnace to turn off. In my testing, this happens very infrequently and is nothing to worry about, as it only results in an approximately 3% loss in efficiency. Total power draw adding the branch power plus the electrical branches themselves in the system is 20. The metal frag is what makes the daisy chaining work, and without it, the conveyors would only fill the first furnace. You can use any item that doesn't go in a furnace to achieve the same result as long as you filter for it and it is in the ore box. You could alternatively just use a bunch of splitters, but I personally prefer daisy chaining. This has been my Auto Smelter Module 2.0. Unfortunately, this latest update has made the system more complex. Most of the little quirks I didn't get into in this video, but hopefully my tutorial was clear enough to follow along. My original modular sorting system does still work with the new update, although I will be making a version 2.0 soon with some improvements, so be sure to look out for that. Thanks for watching.